So in 2012, I started this coaching business that was really designed to do almost exactly the same thing that I was doing as a teacher of college students, 18 to 22-year-old students. I wanted to do that same kind of thing, that is, prepare people. I wanted to prepare my students to go out into the world and live their most passionate and creative life. So my primary area of research as a teacher was creativity, the creative process. So I just became, about 10 to 15 years before I actually retired, I became just obsessed with what is it that makes people creative? Well, what do you have to do to be creative? I wanted to know that myself.
Right.
And then I wanted to share that with my students too, because I was a writing teacher. And I would see people over and over again frustrated because they felt like they didn't have any talent, or they felt like it was hopeless to try to do something like they were feeling like they wanted to do. And that's heartbreaking when you're a teacher and you see people who, students who are feeling hopeless. They're feeling incapable, or feeling like it's not going to happen for them, or that that's not them.
Right. Well, there's like this misconception that there's creative people.
Yes.
And then there's
that's exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Because they say like, he or she's creative. That's them. But
yeah,
that's
you hear
everyone.
that all the time. People say, "Oh, my sister Janie, she got the creativity gene in my family.
Right.
I make apple pies. That's all I do." That's like dissing. I would hear people,
Right.
especially women, dissing themselves in terms of creativity, and yet our innate nature is to be creative.
Right.
And so what I wanted to do when I started Life Art Studio, as I was saying, and I think got off track as I often do, was that I wanted to do the same thing for an older population of people,
Right.
women primarily in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, who I was seeing needed the same kind of instruction that my 18, 19, and 22-year-olds needed. They were women who were smart and capable and eminently talented in a number of ways, but they had lost their creative mojo. And because I'd been doing so much research in the area of creativity and looking at what are the conditions that it takes to be creative, I felt like I had something to offer them.
You did. Yeah.
And I just found out that there was a lot of people who wanted to know about that. A lot of...
There was a demand for it.
There was a demand for it. I mean, right off the bat, Stewart, it
Wow.
was so amazing. It was... I just sort of fell into a wonderful group of audience of people that were interested and hungry to know that there was something they can do, that it wasn't just a gift that, some angel or some, God figurehead says, okay, you're going to be creative, you're going to be hardworking, or
So is it a skill set?
it's definitely a skill set, and that is what was so exciting to me when I started doing the research on high performers. And this started several years before I actually retired, and I was doing a series of courses during the January interim term for on high performance in extreme sports.
Oh, athletes.
Yeah. And I started attracting guys to my classes. Like there were lots of times I would teach this class, I'd have all males in the class because we were looking at, athletes that were jumping off, flinging themselves off the sides of mountains and, doing things with
Right.
snowboards and skis.
Like real
and
extreme sports.
Extreme sports, yeah.
Gotcha.
And so that became a real helpful body of research for me because I got to look at what people who are wildly skilled and talented in what they do. And there's just a lot of really interesting film out there as well as books that show the whole process that these athletes go through to get themselves prepared. It's absolutely fascinating. And so I just started breaking it down, saying, okay, here are some of the common threads.
Right.
And from athletes, I then branched out and started looking all over. I started saying, okay, what's high performance in the business world, and what's high performance in the art world, and what's high performance in the music world? And so that was so much fun to do. Oh, yeah.
The correlations right put together.
Oh, yeah.
You're really like researching this in depth.
Absolutely. And so, because one of the things I always say to my clients is I will never advise you to do anything that has not been backed up by research.
And now a few words about our sponsor. Castledor Studios is a music production house located in Orlando, Florida, and it's where I choose to record episodes of The Orange Lando Show. The studio features a blend of vintage and modern equipment and can accommodate musical artists of any genre, voiceover recordings, and, of course, podcasts. They can help with anything audio related. Castledor Studios offers free tours. Come check out their amazing facility for free. There's nothing to lose. They also offer free open house events like their monthly songwriter night where artists share and critique each other's work. It's free, people. Every session you book with Castledor Studios will be professional, private, and inspiring. If you have a creative idea, take action now and contact Castledor Studios at castledorstudios.com. Use reference code OrangeLando to receive a 10% discount on your first booking. All right, back to the show.
So this may be repeating, but the two things that became really important were the habits of mind I saw in these high performers. What kind of ways are they in control of their mind?
Gotcha.
A high performer does not let his or her mind go wacko on a regular basis, as a lot happens to a lot of us. So the practices, that became a big part of my curriculum then, was working with clients on how do you get control? How do you control your mind? How do you control your emotional responses, which is a whole area we can go into. And then the second one of the two things that were very important in observing high performers was the structures of living. So, and you were just talking, and I don't think this got on film, but you were just talking about how important yoga has been in your life. So there's a really good example of a lifestyle change that had profound effects on you.
Immediately,
really.
And then more so over time on different levels. And I think the three things I said was, the physical aspect, psychological aspect, and the spiritual aspect.
Yes.
But just a little bit of physical activity every day, you know, or most days, starts changing you.
Absolutely.
Your sleep regulates, your diet regulates. You start wanting to eat more healthy, and then you're giving yourself self time, and time to focus on yourself every day or most days. And there's something about I think you said control, and there's just giving yourself time to think about your thoughts in the morning. Or in the evening, or whenever you want to do your exercise or yoga or whatever, and that type of meditation, I think you start making a lot more conscious decisions rather than compulsive ones.
Conscious rather than compulsive. That's beautiful, Stewart. I mean, that's it right there.
That's it, right? Yeah. Here's a interesting question maybe I have for you though, because and it goes back to why people, they feel, artists are always like we talk about like wanting, control and making you're living a creative life. And being a creative person, but being like a full-fledged person and regulating your emotions and your feelings and have a sense of control. But some of the greatest artists that we, love, they're quite the opposite, right? Like they died young, they're drug addicts even, or from writers to painters to singers. And there's something that it's almost like irony or like something to pity about it, where it's like they're literally like suffering, and that's what's we admire, or that's what bleeds through into their art. And everyone wants to be creative, but no one wants to suffer for it. And do you have to?
Well, that's a tricky question to answer, but I do have a lot of opinions on that myth. I think it's a myth.
Okay.
Of the suffering artist. And yes, true. I mean, those are the stories we heard in school, like Edgar Allan Poe, and I mean, just tons of artists that we know who drank themselves to get death or took so much opium that they, checked out at age 34. There's lots of those stories, and I know there are lots of artists who felt like they couldn't. If they got them, I've known people who've said, if I fix my neuroses, I'm afraid I won't be able to write anymore. Mike Nichols was the first person, the playwright, the first person I ever heard say that. And he said it as a joke, but he was serious about it too.
Right.
I don't want to, I don't want to get too much therapy because then I may not be able to do my art. But my thought always about those is, what could they have done if they were healthy, well, and sane? Right. What could really have been produced? Not to say that famous artists haven't, that their work wasn't great, but I think so. But I really put those people in a different category. Right. And they're a little crazy. I mean, they're just a little, I don't know, deeply into their emotional frame. Right. And if you want to live a normal life, a happy life, a productive life, that's not good behavior. I mean, that's not. It's not
sustainable for sure.
It's just not sustainable. That's so true. Yeah. And so when we get to the construction, the looking at your lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle have you constructed? It just becomes so evident especially when I was first working. And when I first started Life Art Studio, I was working primarily with artists because of that research I'd done.
With people who were trying to
people who were wanting to get their artistic mojo. Gotcha. Yeah. So whether it was writing or painting or whatever. I eventually went beyond that. My curriculum has evolved over the 8-9 years that I've been doing it now. And but I would ask people things like, tell me about your sleep. How do you sleep? Or I would ask them about their eating. How many times a day do you eat?
Your creative art teacher asking.
Yeah. So people would say, I thought you were a creativity coach. Why are you asking me about food? And what it comes down to eventually is, if you haven't constructed a lifestyle that supports your capacity to tap in to your innate creative capacities, then you might as well not have those capacities. Right. So if you're fatigued or foggy-headed, if you're not nutritionally filled up, and able to think well, and if you don't move well, movement is one of the big four in terms of lifestyle construction, then you do not have the physical or time constructs to really do what you want to do. So, for instance, I'll just give you an example. I was working early on with a woman who wanted to write, and I asked her, where is your creative space? Where's your create space in your home? Right. And she said,
it's interesting.
Well, I don't know. She said, she said, you mean where I write? And I said, yeah, where you do your work, what you think of as your creative work. She said, well, sometimes I'm in the living room unless the kids are there, and then I'll go out on the front porch, or if that's not convenient, I might go to my bedroom and write in my bed. And so she went on like this for several minutes, and finally I said, stop. I get the feeling you don't have a designated create space. Right. And she said, no, I don't. I said, for everything else that we do in our homes, we have a designated space. We have a bedroom
Right.
for sleeping. We have a kitchen for cooking and eating. We have a living room for socializing. So why would you not have a designated space for you to do the very thing that you say you want to do more than anything else in the
Wow.
world? I'm thinking you're not telling me the
Yeah.
truth.
You're onto something there. It's a great point.
And so
yeah.
something as basic as that, as where, what are the boundaries that you've actually set down? It's that kind of thing that I'm talking about when I talk about
Right.
lifestyle changes, because you have to have the structure of a life that supports the creative work you want to do. Like you're a musician and you have instruments and you have a place that you can go to and rehearse, and you have friends that you get together with and compose with, and you give time to doing that. And so I often would say to these early on to the clients that I was working with, I would say, I think you're being so hard on yourself because you're not giving yourself any chance to do
Right.
the creative work you want, and yet you're beating up on yourself for not succeeding.
And what it's something about it's because it's creativity too, where people fall short. They don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you any other thing you aspire to learn or build or whatever, if you want to people that want to be carpenters, they'll build a workshop.
Exactly.
But like if for someone who wants to be a writer or something, that's a huge one, I think. Or someone
Yeah.
or just I think everyone should write.
Yeah.
It's just a great way to deal with your thoughts and to discover your creative ability, all
Yeah.
that. But yeah, make a space for it.
Make a space for it. And even if one of the early books I used as a creative writing teacher was a book called Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. It's like 30-year-old book now, but it's still just as vital as it was in the early days of my teaching. And one of the things that she would do as a writer, because she couldn't get peace and quiet in her own house, is she would go to a cafe or a coffee shop, and she would buy a cup of coffee and one cookie and nurse those, for as long as she could. This is pre Starbucks days where you could go and set up a whole office in
Right.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to a Starbucks and there's like 15 offices in there. I think that's a great thing. I used to tell my students to do that. Go to a coffee shop and write, Make that your writing space if you want. Wherever is going to work for you.
There's some really great little coffee shops in Orlando
That's
too to
so
hang
true.
out at. I mean, the Austin's place is right on the road.
Yeah.
I used to go there for open mics years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was your student, I was over there.
Yeah.
It was like 2014. I'm not sure. And then there's that Phoenix coffee place. They had like a
Yeah.
video cafe and
Yeah.
stuff. I used to go over there when I was in school a lot. Or the library. I used to love the Olin Library on Rollins College campus. That's a special place.
It's awesome.
But yeah, even like a public library. Something about being in a library.
Yeah.
Where you can just be with yourself and. But I think kind of back to what you made an interesting point, because there was like this misconception of you need to suffer and struggle and lose control to have like something worth people listening to or any kind of art produced.
Yeah.
And I think that's an exception and not the rule.
Definitely. I agree.
And
I definitely think
everyone can be creative. Everyone is creative.
Yeah.
And
It's how do you figure out the tools that you need to apply to your own life that will give you access to that creativity. And so, I say don't focus on talent, focus on discipline. That's really what it's going to take.
That's interesting.
Is just learn to be disciplined about giving yourself a little bit of time every day to do the thing that you say you want to do. Whether it's cooking or making a Zen garden or writing a memoir or whatever.
Yeah.
Give a little bit of time to doing it
Stop
every day.
thinking about it and just do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day, right? Like,
Absolutely.
That's just
Absolutely.
makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
What do so you I went to some of your workshops. What do you said you saw a huge demand for? Was it middle-aged women mainly?
Well,
or middle-aged people
yeah,
in general?
mostly women, and I really hate that word middle-aged, but because
Yeah, what is middle-aged? I don't
it's
know.
what is middle-aged, yeah. But here's the way I would characterize the women that I was first attracting to my offerings. They were people whose children were kind of pretty much grown up, in some cases have left the nest, whose husbands were super into their careers and busy. And many of these women found that their creative energy had gone into the child rearing and homemaking, which is that's a wonderful creative effort to have. But then when that ended, many people found themselves bereft. I also initially was getting a lot of people who were unhappy in their jobs, and they were kind of wanting to go back to that time in their life where they were doing something creative that made their heart really sing. And that was kind of the kind of audience. It has totally grown into a very diverse group of people now. But I would say that would characterize the first. It was sort of like women who were kind of having a midlife crisis, who am I now?
Right.
If I'm not, Jonathan and Lisa's mother, then who am I? It was kind of identity crisis issues. And so that really led us into lots of psychological issues, too, that people have to face when they want to make a change in their life and do something that's kind of scary to do.
I love how you always, because you brought up psychology and you bring up science and stuff every time we're talking about art. And I took your editing and grammar class.
Yeah.
And you have this like scientific almost like mathematical way of teaching editing and grammar, I think. Like the way you taught it was like drilling. It's like I might as well. It was like being in a math class. I think that's what it was. And it was
which is why most people didn't want to take that class.
Yeah, which is why most people failed. No, I don't know. But no, that was the class people avoided.
It was.
And it was because if you go to you're going in degree for writing, the last thing the hardest you're thinking about all these creative elements, and then the editing and grammar is this whole other skill set that is very much as important, obviously, if you're writing and editing, right? And I remember your class being the one there's like you had to either take your class or I think it was Professor Deaver at the time or somebody else.
I think it was Martha Cheng's class would fulfill that requirement
one of the two.
Yeah.
And but I made a point. I was like, because that was my weak point. I needed to understand editing and grammar, everything about it. I needed to.
You were smart. You were going to put your feet to the fire. You were disciplined. Yes, you were.
I had just got out of the military, and I was tired of doing things people told me to do.
Yeah.
And I found something that I really liked, and I was going to be as good at it as possible.
Awesome.
So I was at that kind of point.
That was powerful time for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Rollins was a very powerful time for me.
Yeah.
I can't.
Was it you were in transition then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got out
from the military coming back,
because I was overseas the whole time too. So I came back in 2011. And then actually I did a year at Valencia, or 2 semesters at Valencia, and then I went to Rollins 2013, something like that. Yeah. And but the whole college years were, it was me actually being like, I'm making conscious decisions and like going towards something, whereas like the military, you get orders and you just got to do it,
You do what you're told.
You get disciplined.
Yeah.
And I was ready to kind of engage myself a
Yeah.
little bit. So,
You were
it was
highly
powerful.
motivated. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
I love that school.
Yeah, I do too. I really miss it.
Right.
I really do miss it. But can I go back just for a minute to your thing about comparing the grammar part of that class to to math? And it's very it's structured the way a mathematical problem is. A linguistic statement has a structure to it. And what I wanted to do was help people understand the logic behind that structure, and that's why you study grammar. So you can talk, because you can't even talk about a sentence unless you got the language, for what is this, a prepositional phrase or a participial phrase, or, you've got to have the language for identifying the component parts. But and I know people thought that was tedious. It was tedious because unfortunately, people of your age did not get good training in 6th grade, which is where you should have been learning that.
Right.
I mean, I think you may remember I said that in the first week of the class. what I'm teaching you is sixth
I remember you
grade
saying that.
grammar. This was not a sophisticated linguistics course
No.
I was teaching at all. But here's the point that I want to remind you of, and I know you'll get this, because the purpose of studying the component parts of a sentence is so that you can be more creative in understanding what that sentence means, and in also in your own composing of sentences. So for instance, you'll remember that when we did those exercises up on the board, and I would have a sentence up, and I would mark off a chunk of words, and I would say, phrase or a clause, and you would all, it was like rote, kind of like what you do in learning a language almost. And, we had to repeat those things, but eventually you could, everybody could say, well, that's a phrase. Okay, what kind of phrase is it? It's a participial phrase, or it's a prepositional phrase, or it's in a positive, or whatever. And then I would say, how does that phrase function?
Yes, form
Remember
and function.
that? Form it. Very good, Stewart. He got an A.
Oh, yeah, I did. Now I'm still going for extra credit.
Yes,
Yeah.
extra credit. So you begin to understand. And then I would say, okay, what happens if we take this phrase and we put it at the end of the sentence instead of at the beginning? Now we're getting into style.
Right.
So you see, ultimately, there was a method in my meanness. People thought I was mean.
You were a little mean.
I was.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but you were like, you got to do this. You have to do the work.
I was serious about
were
it.
serious,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
I was
Yeah.
serious about it for sure. And but I felt like once you got that notion that we can move these parts around and make this sentence more confusing, or we could move them around and make this sentence more elegant.
There's a click that happens.
And when that happens, bam, you can't look at literature in the same way
Oh, you
ever
ruined
again.
you ruined language for me.
Yes,
I got to
it's
break
true.
down everything. I'm looking. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it gives you, because you learn the rules, right? You
Yeah.
you really learn these like really hard grain, and you describe them as like, this is what is like our the neuroscience, like what's happening in our brain,
happening in the brain
and
when-
how brain makes language, and the
Exactly.
patterns that are happening. I think there's only like 10 sentence patterns,
Yeah,
right?
10 or 11.
and something like that. But you can really kind of look at any sentence or any phrase and kind of really break down like where it is in this more scientific kind of way, the
Yeah.
form of it, and then like with the punctuation, you can really create a rhetorical effect.
Absolutely.
in style.
Oh, I love that phrase, rhetorical effect. Yes.
Right.
What we're after is rhetorical effect. So style then becomes the way we manipulate language to get the rhetorical effect that we want. It makes you more powerful. It makes you more powerful as a speaker, as a writer, as a debater, as a voter, as a, consumer of speeches.
Yeah. Talk about in a
Listen.
world where everything can be so deceptive, especially with social
Absolutely.
media and things like that, and you want to
Absolutely.
you learn the rules and you learn how to break the rules.
Yeah.
And then
So students would say to me in that class, in that editing essentials class, they would say, a lot of students that I had in a creative writing class would come in and take that class. Well, largely because they had to, of course, because it was a required course. But they would students who had a course with me
They didn't
in
want
creative
to.
writing, yeah, right, they didn't want to. But they would spend the first 3 or 4 sessions, and then inevitably they would come up to me and say, "Where's the Dr. Laws that I knew and loved so well last semester?" Because I was teaching creative flow,
Right.
know,
It's completely
and
different.
and so they were freaked out by this, kind of what some people can think of as a kind of rigidity. I don't think of it as rigidity. It's just the rules. It's
Right.
like
knowing your craft.
knowing your craft. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
the better way to say
is.
it.
It's like a mechanic not knowing the tools in a shed. You got to learn all that.
And because there was a lot of people just were it was brand new stuff for them. They felt like it was tense. But it's good to be challenged.
It was really tense too, because all the other classes, for the most part, we sat around. I mean, in this one too, but we would sit around in circle, and we would write things, we'd read things, text, whatever, and we'd share them, and we would get feedback, and and most of our classes were really pushing critical thinking and how to organize an argument or an opinion, and so it was a very different mode going into your class, because now it's like, hey, you have tests that aren't about, that where you actually have to have the right answer. There's only one answer, and you just have to know.
Answer.
Right, which was in our other classes. We weren't like that. It was very much like form an opinion. And so I think the type of people that were in that degree program were kind of like freaked out about the class. And,
that's true.
But I think if you were going to take one class out of that whole program, that's the one you would probably, for like out of one semester, that one class, you gained so many new skills. There's so much more control.
Well, and
awareness.
that there's actual data on that. At the end of the at the end of your senior year, when you have to fill out all of those evaluation forms, time and time again. I mean, we would talk about this in department meetings. My colleagues would say, "What in God's name are you doing in that class, Lezlie?" Because I hear them complaining all throughout the semester, and then at the end of the semester, they're saying, or when they graduate, they're saying, editing essentials was like the most important course I took in my whole in the whole curriculum. Not everybody said that, but it's after the fact. After you sort of like it's sort of like being in the Army, isn't it? I mean, don't you say you look back on the Army and really got some benefits from the
I tell you what, I really I went to Rollins for free. The military paid for all of it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So like that was another reason why I was like, I'm ready to take advantage of this,
Oh my gosh, that is very nice.
So that was, absolutely.
Is that the GI Bill? Is that still in effect?
Bill,
That's still in effect?
Still in effect, yeah. They got, they still revise it, and I think they even add new benefits now and then, and it's a great, it's an amazing, it was after 9/11, they really, before 9/11 was the Montgomery, it's an older one, it was limited. This one is like it's designed to get you 4 years of college and housing while you're in college.
So wonderful.
So I mean, for me getting out of high school, I was like, I'm barely getting out of high school. I was like, it was the best option. It gave me some time.
Yeah.
I got to travel, got all these things, really kind of figure out what I want to do. Get tired of people telling me what to do, and then I have the money and the.
What a great success story.
I got a little lucky, but
it
was, it just happened to make some of these decisions that worked out, and no, it is. But I think one thing about your class where people complain about it is they do, but then they're at home with their spouse or whoever, their friends, and they're like, oh, you need to put the Oxford comma. You don't know that, There's something about knowing those things.
There's like a little pridefulness about knowing where you're supposed to use a semicolon.
I remember your favorite punctuation was a dash.
That's very good. That's the name of my dog.
I remember. Yeah, you're white. You had
I named my dog. It's
Dash.
a little white, fluffy Bichon Frise. I named her Dash after my favorite punctuation mark.
She was in class with us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she would be in class. Yeah. Yep. And I remember because I started using it. I remember like not knowing anything about punctuation before that class, like at all. And then you said something about the dash. You love that because you can create like anticipation or emphasis, and emphasis was a big thing we talked about.
Yeah,
and style and stuff. But I could, I could just reminisce about that class all day. But that's just one thing you do.
Yeah, that's sort of in the past.
Yeah. And the creative class that you were teaching at Rollins, that's what became, you kind of turned into your own entrepreneurial
I did,
thing,
I just really took a big part of the research and core concepts that I was teaching in my classes, and I recrafted them to make it, amenable to a somewhat older and broader audience. But it really has worked. It has really helped people pull some discipline and focus and into their lives, and also has given them strategies for building resilience and stamina and a kind of spaciousness that you need to have if you
Yeah.
want to be creative. And so I've tried to really put together a set of very concrete strategies and tools that people can actually apply to their own lifestyle management. And the one that we talked about sleep, and we've talked about food, we've talked about movement. Those are really the top 3 of the top 4.
Like you get those, like you're pretty good.
Yeah, and then the fourth one I'm saying these are the top 4 because these are the 4 things that of all the research I've done, it's what the people say they do. When you ask them or when they are asked about, what is it about your life that allows you to do this? I sleep well, I eat well, I move regularly. And you want to know what the 4th one is? They give time to a contemplative practice.
Wow.
Yeah. So those aren't the only things, but those are the things that kind of keep coming up again and again and again. And so if people who are really focused and productive and effective in leading their lives and being actively creative with their lifestyle, with their whole life, because this is what we want. We want our whole life to be a creative endeavor, not just when I write or when I compose a song, but you want your living to be creative. And so, my thing is, whatever that guy's doing, I want to do that a little bit of that too. You know, so if it's working that well for him or for so many people, so. I have been a student of meditation since I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And so once I started seeing this research of the importance of some kind of contemplative practice in the lives of these high performers, I knew I had to fold that into my curriculum.
And just to clarify, when you say high performers, because you were talking, I know you said athletes for sure, but you're also talking about like CEOs.
Oh
and
yeah, I'm
business
talking
people,
about I'm talking about high performers. So I have I have a gigantic bookcase filled with nothing but books that have to do with stories about or studies on people who are high performers. And that I'm talking about dancers, artists, painters, entrepreneurs, furniture makers, Zen garden, anybody who's doing really good at something that they're doing. They're really performing at a very high level.
Gotcha.
So what is it that those people do? Let's figure out what it is they're doing. What are the common denominators among all of these different disciplines? There are some common denominators that I think what I said to myself as an entrepreneur myself was, well, if these things are so common among these people who are doing well, let's start teaching them.
Why are there so many people that aren't doing that? Or why is it hard? Or is it something our culture doesn't teach us?
Exactly.
Do we lose it as a person?
That is such a beautiful question. That's one of the reasons I retired from Rollins in 2013. I didn't really want to stop teaching, but I did not want to teach in the way that I had to fit into the system.
Curriculum and all that.
Because I knew this kind of material, if I could teach a course like this at Rollins, then I would still be there.
Gotcha.
And so I wanted to teach, to continue doing research and study myself, and then to share what I was learning with people who wanted to ramp their lives up. I'm not working with people who want to be high performers. I'm just working with people who want to be a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah. Let's just be a little bit better tomorrow than we were yesterday.
Right.
And if you incrementally, if you do that, so that's one of the secrets, not a secret, but that's definitely one of the things you say, why are people not doing it? Is because they don't know how to do it incrementally. They say, I have a friend who says, I've known her for years, and she's been grossly overweight most of the time that I've known her. And she will go on a diet and say, okay, I'm going to do this diet. I found a new diet. I'm going to do it this time. My goal is to lose 100 pounds. And I would think, I wouldn't say this out loud, but I would say to myself, oh, Lisa, don't lose 100 pounds. Just lose 1 pound. Just 1 pound. Because if you lose 1 pound, then you want to lose another 1 pound. And that's the way you develop a habit.
That's it, right?
So people who are high performers have good habits. And they have either innately had the capacity to establish habits in their lifestyle, or they've learned there's so much.
I think it goes back to what we're talking about being conscious and compulsive. Because I mean, we all form habits.
Yes.
Bad habits, good habits, or
all the time.
Habits you're not even aware you're doing, or like, you know, I mean, the most obvious ones, you know, are things, you know, people like maybe smoking or something, you know, or things that are bad for you, and you're kind of doing them. I mean, you know that you're doing them, but they become more of like a compulsory thing where it doesn't. Yeah, and the further you get into a habit, for better or worse, the harder it is to kind of get rid of. I think
exactly.
Same thing goes if, you know, maybe like with something like cigarettes, but also with something creative, or like you start learning an instrument. You can't play an instrument for 5-10 years and then be like, I'm never gonna play that again. Like,
right.
It's there, you know.
Right.
If you have like that, it's part of your identity now.
Exactly.
And habits, they mold us. Right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, our culture doesn't.
So we don't do that.
Teach that.
Yeah, we don't teach that. And if you don't get it in your home as you're growing up, as most of us didn't, then you're kind of left to your own to figure that out someplace along the line. I will say, though, in this day and age, it is a lot easier because of the whole podcast world. Oh, my God.
Oh, the amount of information.
The amount of information.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I mean, even when I was teaching, you know, at the end of my career at Rollins, I was saying to students all the time, you guys know, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to pay $60,000 a year and come here and get a degree from Rollins. You could take your computer out to the lake and spend 6 hours a day
and get
gathering information.
Information is
and learn so much.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
It is really
it's almost
crazy.
It's almost like you kind of forget about it, take it for granted.
Oh yeah.
You know, but it wasn't that long ago where it's like you had to go to the library.
Exactly.
Or you had to tune in at the right time if you wanted to hear someone talk on the radio or the TV or something.
I mean, I just think about just the topics that I'm interested in, and I listen to podcasts. My friends make so much fun of me, but I am the podcast queen.
Cool.
I have a podcast going 24/7 in my house, and you know, so the areas of food and nutrition and athleticism and just a whole range of health and wellness topics that I'm interested in. I almost feel like I have a PhD in some of those areas.
It's amazing.
Listened to so much and bought so many books that have been talked about on those podcasts.
Yeah.
So it really is possible to get that information now that we were talking about on your own, but it's still hard. It's better if you can catch people early on. And the other thing about I think the question that kind of pushed this part of the conversation off was you said, well, why is it that people don't do that? Well, partly is the discipline part, but a biggest part I found in the people that I've worked with is that they don't have a clear enough articulation in their own mind of what value they're holding in the thing they want to do. In other words, if you want to paint, if you want to be an artist and you want to paint, then you have to want to do that more than you want to spend time hanging out with people who are not very good influences on you. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like I have a 10-point protocol that I take my clients through. The second element in the protocol is examine your influences. Who are you spending your time with? How much time in your day are you wasting with people who are not inspiring you to be your best self? And so once people can get clear about what they aspire to be or what they aspire to do, then they're willing to make some hard changes. You know, like if you want to be a marathon runner and you're smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day,
probably not going to work.
Okay,
out.
we got to work on the cigarette smoking first.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And so you got to want to run that race more than you want to smoke those 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Right.
And that's where the magic has to happen.
It's funny too because I think everyone's got at least one or maybe a few things, where they can't not do it, like good things for them.
Yeah.
Or you can eventually get to a place where you have those the discipline where you can't not do those things. For me, like one of the big things is I like to write music.
Yeah.
And not even whole songs a lot of times, but I like playing my guitar and writing things and coming up with maybe just like a verse or a chorus. And the only reason that I'm actually recording music at all is because I just can't stop doing it, you know? So like why, you know what I mean?
I love it. Yeah, I
And
do know what you mean.
And it's like at this point, and it has a lot to do with the people I surround myself with. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surrounded by, the people in the studio, Zach in there. What's up, dude? He's the one that we started making music in Italy together. He was in the Air Force with me. I don't think I told you that.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, we were overseas in the Air Force together. He had a guitar.
Did he grow up here?
He's from Hawaii.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. We stole him.
Good
islander.
deal.
Yeah. And so,
See, there you go.
Yeah.
There's a person who
Yeah,
has
it's
been
exactly
a
what you were
powerful
just
influence.
saying.
Exactly.
And it's so true.
And there's a saying in the coaching world. Jim Rohn is a very famous coach who's is attributed with saying this, that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with.
oh shit.
Yeah, shit, right.
Yeah.
Can you say that on this
Oh
podcast?
yeah, you can
Okay,
definitely
good.
yeah.
So really, every time I say that in a workshop, I
Right.
see all heads go down and people start making a list.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh no, and then so it's pretty appalling when you really do the math. Really figure out the time that you're engaging.
Good to identify the things that are making yourself or like influencing yourself, like you said.
Absolutely, examine
We're
your
social
influences.
creatures,
Yeah.
We're so social. Our
Yeah.
brains, that's how they are constantly changing, right? Based
Yeah.
off of these social
And that's
things.
a hard component in the protocol for a lot of people because it's hard to give up people you've been hanging out with for years, but you have to decide, what do you want more?
Sometimes you got to leave your town, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and just start, get a whole new.
That's
Yeah,
it.
totally. One of my really good friends just moved to New Hampshire. Right, he's from down here, and this is kind of the opposite side of that coin. Because I think if you identify those people and you realize that they're like have a profound effect on you and a good effect that you like, when they're gone, when they do leave, then it's kind of like, oh man, and there's kind of like this
Really?
whole, and it's kind of like it was like a good friend, that one of the few, 5 kind of a,
Yeah.
and
One of your big 5.
And he's in New Hampshire and stuff. And we had a good time. We went up there. I drove a box truck up there for him, helped him move
Aw.
with his family and stuff. And but yeah, and then I came back and I was like, usually today I would go hang out with my buddy Dave, but Dave's on the other side of the country now, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of like.
Sad.
But it's true because in
Yeah.
our personalities, I think especially with friends, you start
Yeah.
mimicking each other in lots
Yeah.
of ways and things like that.
Yeah.
And now
you
it's
realize
kinda
how
like,
important that is. How important that time that you had with him was.
like just to get
It's valuable.
through the BS of life or whatever
Yeah.
to deal with things. It's there's a reason for friends and family and it's interesting to think about
good.
the 5 people that are.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting exercise.
And there's only so many people you can let in
You
close.
well, yeah, and especially
at
as you get
once.
older and busier, you have only so much, expendable time. I mean, because there's so much stuff that you have to do. So now with the time that really is time that I can do whatever I want with, am I going to blow it or am I going to use it wisely towards some conscious decision about what I want to do?
Yeah, conscious,
Yeah.
not compulsive.
Yeah,
That's what we want.
conscious, not compulsive.
I like that. I think that's a theme of this whole
Yeah.
conversation. We still got like 10 minutes. Sweet.
Well, if I could just add before you ask another question,
Yeah.
then I want to go back to the contemplative practice thing because being more and more conscious is what that piece of the practice is all about, is really honing your mind, the qualities of your mind, such that you really are being more self-aware and more conscious of those beneficial qualities of mind that are going to allow you to do the creative work you were brought to this earth to do.
Just like you said, live creatively.
Live creatively.
Like all aspects of your life.
Yes, with joy and engagement and benefit to yourself and to others.
I think the demand for the work you're doing is only going to be like exponentially growing, especially one, because we mentioned it's just something we don't learn. It's just not something our culture teaches. And the other thing is, we were talking about the information overload we get from the internet, but like social media and all these things that are throwing at you that are affecting you. Like, there's all sorts of studies out there about depression and anxiety, associated with social media. Right, it's just like this compulsory thing. You get that dopamine hit or whatever.
It is. It's what it is. Yeah.
And then your idea of reality starts to can even shift. When you're looking at people through filters and things. Yeah. This is stuff like, you should have your own school. That's what you need. You do have your own school.
Well, I sort of do, but...
Have you tried, because I know during COVID it must be hard to do workshops and stuff.
Yeah, we've been pretty much closed down since COVID. And, but I'm in fact, I was working, when you called and said you were going to be about 30 minutes late, I was totally okay with that because I've been working on a blog post that I'm going to send out in the next week or so to my people to sort of...
I get your newsletter.
Oh, good.
I still I signed up years ago, and I love your blog. I love your writing.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, maybe too, it's because I know you, but you're obviously a great writer, and your voice comes through, and it's
thank you, Stewart. That means so much to me.
I still I read your writing with kind of like, can I learn something here? What is she doing?
I'll bet you're there checking my comments.
Oh, I am.
Too.
I'm looking. They're always perfect. No complaints.
Well, I am trying to rethink. I mean, because this is another example of what we have known about research for a long time, and that is that what we've known about creativity from the research, and that is, this is a little known fact, I think, to the average person, but that is that restriction or boundaries actually is an asset to the creative endeavor. So in other words, if you just say to somebody, here's some paper, write a story, then maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if you say, here are 5 pages, write a story that has a blue dog in it, a 6'6" man, takes place in New Hampshire, blah, 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 what, Then all of a sudden, your boundaries start getting tighter and tighter. The restrictions
force you to be creative.
Exactly. It gives you, it's first, I don't really know neurologically exactly what goes on, but it actually does help the brain function.
It must be like some kind of evolutionary thing we had, like problems we came across.
Probably.
We saw fire one day and we had to figure out how to make fire or something. I don't, like
could be. Yeah,
you have
it
a
really
problem.
Could be.
And
So I think that this pandemic that we're all facing has forced so many businesses and organizations. I mean, you guys are facing that too here.
Hard,
and what do you do? To keep contact with your people and with your audience and serve them in the way that you want to serve them. So it's challenging a lot of people to think in new ways about how their content can be redirected and served up in a brand new way.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's a way. You got to be creative, right? You got an obstacle. You got to figure out how to make it an opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of. You got a problem. You got to get creative.
Absolutely.
Obviously with the studio, they've had. Actually, I'd like to invite you to something that Zach and his girlfriend Alyssa have been doing. It's a songwriter workshop. We used to host it in the studio. And people would come and and it's just it's like a writing workshop, but songwriting. And now we do it online.
Terrific.
It's like every 2 weeks they host it. It's the Orlando Songwriter Night. Is that right? Orlando Songwriter Workshop. Orlando Songwriter Workshop. And it's very cool because you were talking about like there is like this really diverse, beautiful like music scene in Orlando.
Yeah.
And you get to see those people. And it's free. You just go on. We have like a Zoom meeting, and people share music and songs, and it's just like what you would do in a writer workshop.
That
with
is
music.
fabulous.
And it's interesting how it was going well when they started it in the studio, in the physical space, and then COVID happened, and it's like, that was just starting to happen, And they were like, well, I guess we'll try the online thing. And now it's huge. Now it's blowing up.
Because people don't have to get in their car and come to you. And you could have people from all over the state joining
all over the world. And you can't, you can only fit so many people in here.
Yeah.
And then the other thing about it is just the I don't know. You start the nature of being on your computer and in your own home and stuff. You build relationships that it's like because you can start chatting with people in the middle of it and stuff. And I don't know. There is like this connectivity, and there's something with this pandemic that is it's forcing everyone to if you don't live creatively, you better start figuring it out now, right? Because you got a huge problem to face.
And the big questions of life too, like what am I all about? Who am I?
All the existential stuff.
Yeah, the big existential questions.
Sure.
What do I do now? And if this, it again goes back to the identity issue. You can have some life crises if the way you see yourself is taken away and you can't refashion that in some way.
You're kind of a yoga teacher, honestly. You're like you're a guru. You're a yoga guru. Yeah, because I mean, it do like everything you're talking about. It is. I think it's the healthiest way to approach the smallest and largest problems and questions in our lives.
Yes.
And it's self-reflection, meditation, living a healthy life. And
so, are you still practicing at the yoga shala?
Yeah, on and off a little bit.
Yeah.
COVID kind of had. I actually got COVID. So yeah, I know. This is in June.
Oh no.
And I had it for 2 days. I had like a fever for 2 days, and I was fine. Luckily, I blew through it, and I was good.
Good.
I also gave it to Zach though.
Oh,
And
Zach.
What
a good friend you are.
I think because we were sharing a guitar, we were passing guitar back and forth or something. Maybe might have happened.
Gosh.
I think that's what we kind of But he was I think like 10 days. Yeah, he was down.
Yeah, 10 days or 9 days of fever nonstop. It was pretty rough.
Oh, he took one for the team.
Sorry again.
Wow. Yeah. And you're still friends, huh?
I know, right? He's just No, he was never. I was like, you know what? Maybe you gave it to me.
Who knows?
But so that happened, and then the shawa, I stopped going once I started. I had a symptom, and and then I had, I did go to the new location.
I have not been to the new location. I'm having dinner with Krista on Monday, so
really?
I'm going to get all caught up on what's going on at the shala.
Cool. Yeah, I saw her. I've been seeing her recently. She hooked me up with essential oils and things like that.
Oh yeah. You're getting into oils.
A little bit.
Watch out.
I know,
it's
right?
very expensive endeavor.
Yeah, it is.
Woo.
Yeah, but it's definitely something I just wanted to like the aromatic thing about it.
Oh, it's great.
It's great, And but yeah, she hooked me up, and she's always. I think she's back in the shala now, and
good.
I mean, between you and her, you had the surgeries. You guys, I'm glad you both are walking around.
Yeah.
you got a new knee. She's got a new shoulder.
I know.
Yeah, and
she's really been through it.
Yeah.
It's so good to have her back, though. So.
She was on earlier in the year, the podcast.
I know. I saw that.
That
was, or I didn't see it. I listened to it. It was not.
Yeah, I didn't do a video because I mess up sometimes. It's a new thing.
Oh
for
well.
Me.
A new thing.
But I know I'll have her on again. Next year or something.
Well, so let me ask you, what if you had to say what your kind of core mission, or not mission is probably not the right word, but what's your core theme that you're
for the show?
That you're kind
That's
of.
a great question.
Yeah, I'm sure it's evolving, but
it's well, first of all, I had been thinking about. I never wanted to do it. I was always kind of like, who am I to do a podcast? Like, why do I want to do or what I mean? Like, it just seemed like I had a little bit of it was kind of off-putting to me. I'm like, I don't want to do a fucking podcast, and then I, through my regular, practice and stuff, and especially in the last few years, I've been really intense with yoga, a little on and off, but pretty intense.
Yeah.
Because Ashtanga, the nature of Ashtanga, if you really go for it,
you were amazing too, Stewart. I watched you improve.
Yeah. Oh
over
yeah,
that.
It changed a lot, right?
You really did a fantastic job with that practice.
That was a lot of work.
A lot of work.
But doing that work, to your question, I was doing a lot of, I don't know, maybe soul searching, whatever, going through my things, and really kind of doing the pros and cons, making lists, and I realized that. I'm a very social person. I love talking to people. Well, one of the things I love doing is just talking to people So I was kind of like, shit, maybe I should do a podcast.
That sounds like a pretty important
And then,
criteria for a podcast.
My buddy has this studio, and he's got some open bookings and stuff, and so I want to support the studio. If I'm going to put my money anywhere, why not help a friend build his business and build my own thing at the same time? And the other thing is I love Orlando community. I feel like I've met a lot of interesting people here, and hopefully, and I was thinking like the hardest part would be getting people on here. Like, would they even do it? Like who's going to come on my podcast? And
who wouldn't come on your podcast?
Apparently everyone's coming. Next week I got Anna Escamani.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, so she's going to come on. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know who tricked her into thinking that was a good idea, but yeah, no.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
so it sort of feels like you're starting out with just having people that you enjoy talking or want to talk to, but eventually that maybe could grow into.
It's just an open forum, I think, and maybe at certain times it'll have its own focus and then maybe shift. But I think as soon as I say it's this, I might lose out on an opportunity somewhere else.
True.
Yeah. It's what drives me about it is, I think one thing about me in particular that's always been kind of like the conflict about me being successful at anything is I just don't have like one thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I really enjoy just talking to people about all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Because, I can sit down and talk to you about editing and stuff today, and the next week I talk to Anna Escamani.
About politics.
2 weeks ago I talked to a couple of vocal coaches. I talked to engineers and sociologists in here already. It's been, I had a YouTuber on there who trades Pokemon cards online.
Gosh,
totally like. And it's always like I'm constantly learning. It's like that need, like you listen to podcasts. It's the same thing. Like you like to have conversations and listen to people and talk to people.
Well, you're the perfect person to do that. I think that's great. And you're highlighting, the interesting people in Orlando.
I think, I do. I have like a lot of pride for it.
Great.
I don't think I'm going to limit it to just Orlando, but
good.
The core of it for sure is always going to be like, this is the talent. This is, a piece of the world. It's a little slice of life, kind of a thing.
I think it's great.
It started at Rollins, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Really?
I was on the WPRK.
Oh, okay,
It was the Orange Lando show every Wednesday from noon to 2 with DJ Stu.
Noon to 2 with DJ Stu. That is...
Yeah. It was just
so good.
Mainly music stuff. I'd have people come on there and play. Zach on there playing and stuff and some conversation.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of what happened. I guess
it's a natural evolution for your gift for a variety of topics. That's great. Yeah, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
and thank you so much for giving me your time.
I am honored to be here. Truly, what a great time to get to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Well, I was just going to say we never got to talk because we were kind of coming and going at different times. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is nice actually to sit down and especially pick your brain because it's a brain to be picked. And I'll put all of your links and stuff to your online stuff.
Okay, good.
In the little bio section.
Okay.
And I think what's great is anyone can benefit from the things you're talking about and that you're teaching.
I think so too.
And they would be very stupid and not take advantage of it. Anyway, Lezlie, thank you.
Thank you, Stewart. It's great to be here.
Thank you.